Tesla stock is up over 4% at the time of recording this video. And I have to say, it's not a huge surprise that Tesla has been doing well in the past 2 days. If you guys have not already followed my X account, go ahead and give that a follow over there. It is Michael Tyler. But I shared this post that says, while Tesla stock's retail investor base panics, smart money, quote unquote, has been quietly covering on their Tesla short positions. The lowest short interest in the history, all of Tesla history, was reported yesterday. Only 2.13%. I would imagine the lower priced Teslas, Robotaxi in June, new Shanghai Megapack factory, new Model Y, and Optimus all have something to do with it. As I add here, follow the money. And you can actually see there's now only 59.61 million shares sold short, and the short interest is at the lowest level in the history of Tesla. Now, that in and of itself is bullish, okay? As short sellers have wanted to get out of short positions in recent weeks. You can actually see now for 6 weeks, the short interest has been falling from almost 81 million shares sold short down to, again, 59.61 million shares sold short. That is a reduction of about 21 million shares since December 13th. That is very bullish. Now, during that time frame, Tesla stock went to new all-time highs. This was actually 3 days before the all-time high. So pretty much the entirety of Tesla falling, you've seen short sellers covering on short positions. It seems like every chance they get. And that tells you that people are not that bearish on Tesla, or big money is not that bearish on Tesla. And I wanted to put that at the start of this video because I know a lot of retail investors just don't feel good right now with Tesla stock. And I know there's a lot of misinformation out there. There's a lot of rumors out there and what I believe is false narratives. But that's the truth. The truth is big money, smart money, whatever you want to call them, with more information than we have, is bullish on Tesla at levels we have never seen before. And with that said, option activity recently from quote unquote smart money has also been very positive. Yesterday, you had a positive order value of 81%. You had 731 different trades totaling $726 million. Today, the numbers are even better. 518 different trades totaling $466.5 million with a positive order value of 91%. Now, there's a couple reasons why Tesla stock is doing well today, and I will explain that now. First and foremost, in after hours yesterday, it was reported that the US government is currently planning to award Tesla a $400 million contract to buy armored Teslas. The anticipated award date is September 30th, 2025, with a 5-year contract length. Now, the US government has since edited the public procurement forecast document tonight and now no longer says the word Tesla. Instead, it now says armored electric vehicles. And Elon Musk confirms that he's pretty sure Tesla isn't getting $400 million. No one mentioned it to Elon, at the very least. S.E. Robinson over here on X says, maybe Biden had a sweet spot for you after all. Elon Musk says, unlikely. And there was actually a hit piece put on Tesla last night by Rachel Maddow, don't know how to say her name. Honestly, I've never watched her show on MSNBC, basically ragging on the Cybertruck and points out this $400 million contract that she says is some kind of, fraudulent deal between Trump and Elon, even though Biden put in this contract. It was last modified on December 13th, 2024, when Biden was president. So she is publicly and knowingly spreading false information. I think there should be some kind of repercussions for that. Elon Musk called her out on X, and since she has not responded. But really, the big news today was PPI. I think PPI really got investors excited. Nick Timmerhouse on X says, because the PPI components that feed into the PCE index, financial and healthcare services, were soft in January, the core PCE index is estimated to print well below the big 0.45% increase in the CPI. A 0.27% increase in core PCE for January would drop the year-over-year rate to 2.6% from 2.8%. And as you can see here, Nick Timmerhouse also points out what Jerome Powell said from yesterday's House hearing. From Moiser, that says the CPI this morning came in a little hotter than expected at 3%. Did this surprise you? Powell said, quote, the CPI reading was above almost every forecast. But I would just offer a note of caution on this. Two notes of caution. One is we don't get excited about one or two good readings, and we don't get excited about one or two bad readings. The second thing, though, is we target PCE inflation because we think it's simply a better measure of inflation. And so you need to know the translation from CPI to PCE, and we get more data on that tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll get the producer price index, so I think it's always wise. And the people who follow us closely know this. That will know exactly what the PCE readings are late tomorrow. So this is part of why markets did well yesterday also, and why markets really shrugged off the much hotter than expected CPI, because Powell said, it really doesn't matter. We care about PCE. Also big news today. Trump says tariffs, these reciprocal tariffs we've been waiting on, will have a delay and may start on April 1st, which is coincidentally my birthday. And we are expecting to hear more about what these reciprocal tariffs could look like in the next few short moments or so. Really, any time we could be getting more details. And I expect we'll probably get more details on these tariffs, over the coming days and weeks. They will be modified. But let me tell you right now, Wall Street just doesn't like uncertainty. Okay, we can handle bad news. We can't handle uncertainty. Actually, let me just tell you guys like a fun fact. Uber Labs, have you ever heard about them? Uber Labs was the part of Uber that did a lot of psychological research on how humans work and how to better their business. And what Uber Labs found is that people do not like uncertainty. That's why taxis, have failed relative to Uber, because Uber tells you exactly how long it's going to take for your taxi, and what process you are at. That is why companies, like when you're at the airport, it doesn't just say, well, people don't like when it just says delayed, because you don't know how long. Like if it said delayed 2 hours, you'd be okay with that versus it saying delayed for 20 minutes. Right? Your brain isn't able to kind of process that uncertainty. And that's why markets hate uncertainty so much. So in fact, if we get bad news, well, that's fine, right? To a certain extent, as long as it's not detrimental to the economy. I think it's really the uncertainty recently that has held back markets. So like literally from a psychological aspect, in every part of our lives, we don't like uncertainty, even if it's bad news, right? That we're getting. We would rather just have the bad news instead of the uncertainty. I would just caution retail investors from taking a bearish stance on these tariffs. Obviously, it depends what is announced, and if that can be important to the economy or not, or be really negative to the economy. But just having certainty, or a little bit more certainty, and getting it over with in and of itself is naturally a positive. Okay, so if the tariffs are not that impactful to the economy, then markets are going to take that news very well, even if it reads as kind of a scary headline. I can also report to you guys that investors are scared, essentially shitless right now. Okay. The last time investors were this fearful goes back to March of 2000, April 2013, August of 2020, and now today, in which all of those instances, besides 2000, led to, big rallies, especially, 2013. It was a great time to be buying when people were this bearish. 2020 in August was a great time to be buying when people were this bearish. Again, you went up a little bit after March 29th, but yeah, that was not a great time to be buying. You can see today via the new AI investor sentiment survey, bearish investors hit a new 1-year bearish high. And again, you have not been this bearish in years, okay? At 47.3% of investors feeling bearish. That is crazy, okay? Just crazy. Neutral investors at 24.3%. And bullish investors at 28.4%. So almost half of investors expect the stock market to be lower 6 months from now. I mean, I don't know what's a better contrarian indicator to say we're probably going higher from here. Also being reported late last night that 75,000 federal workers have accepted President Trump's buyout offer. I think a question here is, how does this affect the labor market? And Trump said as well yesterday that he wants the Department of Education to be closed immediately. So we will see what happens with that one. Also being reported that a Trump memo on reciprocal tariffs to mention Brazil ethanol tariffs. So, I don't think this is going to be really too impactful to China, Mexico, Canada, the areas that we do the most trade with. But there will be likely some large implications for Europe, which I think is really what we want to be watching. Now, we do have some earnings that will be coming out momentarily as well, with Coinbase, Twilio, DraftKings, Applied Materials, Airbnb, Palo Alto, Roku, Wynn, and Republic Services. In the news for Tesla, and part of the reason I think Tesla did well yesterday is you can see lots of refreshed Model Ys spotted outside Tesla's Fremont factory for the first time today. So yesterday, we seen Giga Texas have these new Model Ys out in the outbound lot. But now we have the Fremont factory with these new Model Ys out in the outbound lot. So, I mean, that's a good sign. President Trump also nominated an executive from Apple to run the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration. The executive, Nathan Morrison, reportedly worked on policy issues relating to Apple's discontinued autonomous car project. So this was really seen as good for that deregulation for the autonomous market and really future autonomous market, which Tesla is going to be a big player in. So this is also part of the reason, come to find out, Tesla has likely been doing well in the past couple of days. Tesla has also released a new video on their Tesla Megapack X account about their brand new Megapack factory in Shanghai, which will double the company's global Megapack production capability to 80 gigawatt hours. The CEO of Jeff Bezos' Blue Origin announced in an all-hands call on Thursday company-wide layoffs are of about 10% of all of its employees, a sweeping readjustment of its space and launch business. And Elon Musk says that he will withdraw his $97.4 billion bid for OpenAI's nonprofit arm if the ChatGPT maker stops its conversion into a for-profit entity, according to a court filing. And again, this is basically Elon trying to buy the nonprofit portion of OpenAI, which has governance over the subsidiary, which is the for-profit. And the for-profit is worth obviously more than the nonprofit. But in order to kind of spin that off, you do have to buy out the nonprofit. And that's where Elon essentially offered more than double what the for-profit arm was trying to buy the nonprofit arm for. So Elon just threw a big wrench in the for-profit's plans, essentially. Uber's CEO, in a new interview on Tesla potentially being their biggest problem / competitor, said this, quote, "No one wants to compete against Tesla or Elon if you can help it. Their capabilities are pretty extraordinary. But I think the same economic laws apply to them. Ultimately, if Tesla puts their cars on our network, we already have 150,000 drivers who are driving Teslas. And if they get FSD, they'll love to plug it into Uber as well. Then that Tesla that is both on Uber, and by the way, they could be both on Uber and the network, that is going to create much, much more revenue. Ultimately, that'll increase the value of the Tesla so that the residual value of that car improves. And if they don't do that, there'll be some other OEM that does it. So it all comes back to revenue generation. You have a box with wheels. You want to maximize the revenue of that box in order to reduce your cost of capital. And economic laws apply to Tesla just as they do to any other car company. To some extent, you look at the food business. I'll go there, right? McDonald's has its own app and has an incredible brand, has a lot of capital, has terrific reach. They still work with Uber Eats and DoorDash because they want to drive utilization of the box called the restaurant. The same economic value is going to be true going forward. Ultimately, we're hoping that my charm and economic argument gets Tesla to work with us as well. If they want a direct channel, no problem. Let me tell you, it's a matter of time before Tesla and Uber have a partnership, and I'll tell you why. 160 million monthly active users. That's Uber. That's it. It is very difficult to get people to mass adopt something new. Okay, would a couple million people sign up for the Tesla Robotaxi app? Of course they would. Would it be successful? Of course it would. But if Tesla partnered with Uber, it would be potentially faster to scale that business, which I think would ultimately be good for both companies. And really, when it comes down to it, it's called a psychological moonshot, where essentially you can have two different products. One product is a name brand, the other product is an off brand, and you automatically assign more value to the name brand product, even though the off brand or a competitor may have a better tasting, better nutritional product. But it's that thought process that I recognize the brand, and I've had good experiences with it before, so I think that's ultimately a better product. Kind of the same thing when you think about Uber, okay? People that use Uber are going to be reluctant to use something else, and they already have a large market. So from that perspective, it makes a lot of sense to partner with Tesla. Again, not that Tesla would not be successful on their own. I think it would just take a lot longer to penetrate the mass market. Whereas if Tesla partnered with Uber, all of a sudden you have 160 million monthly active users that may opt to go in a fully autonomous Tesla. They may not. But that in and of itself creates a brand recognition that, wow, now 160 million people know that Tesla is doing fully autonomous rides. That is powerful by itself. Now, Tesla is offering their full lineup this week, including the Cybercab at the Canadian International Auto Show. And here you can see Elon Musk has arrived for his meeting with India's Prime Minister Modi, and they're really expected to talk a lot about Starlink and broadband and AI and things of that nature. Not exactly sure if we're actually going to get much from a Tesla perspective out of this, but we will definitely be on watch for that. And I think he needs more security, as some people point out. And you can also see in the news today that Ukraine and the US and Russia are apparently starting to hold some kind of peace negotiations to end the war in Ukraine. And that is, obviously a positive for markets. Now, as far as sentiment today for Tesla, it is neutral at 52. Yesterday, it was bearish at 41, so that is an improvement. Message volume today is high at 58 versus yesterday it was extremely high at 79. Participation ratio today is normal at 54. The percent of stocks trading above their 50-day moving average moving up about 2.88% today to 48.1%, which is a good sign, but you still have 50%, 52% of our markets, or stocks, I should say, on our markets that are below their 50-day moving average. And I mean, you're at a multi-year high for bearish sentiment. So like markets are very bearish, even though we're near all-time highs, which is something you don't see all the time. Now, the fear and greed index over on CNN is at 44, which is back into fear territory. And we really haven't left fear territory for the most part of the last couple of weeks. Market momentum is fear, stock price strength is fear, stock price breadth is fear, put and call options neutral, market volatility is neutral, safe haven demand in fear, and junk bond demand in greed. You can also see today Japan's Honda and Nissan are scrapping merger talks. It says here the bid to join forces had been seen as an effort to catch up with U.S. titan Tesla and Chinese firms in the electric vehicle market, as well as providing a lifeline to struggling Nissan. They say in a joint statement that, quote, they agreed to terminate the MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, signed on December 23rd last year for consideration of a business integration between the two companies, and said that both companies were not able to reach an agreement is very regrettable, Honda's CEO and president Toshiro Mibe told reporters. And that could also be playing into why Tesla stock is doing well today. Potentially less competition, even though we kind of all know that was never a threat to begin with, at least not for a very, very long time. Now, from a technical perspective on Tesla, I think you want to get above this 361 level. You do have some prior resistance here, right here, right here, right here, right here before, and what looks like as well on February 10th. If you can get above what will be this line, I'll put it here on the charts. If you can get above around this level, then you could see a larger break to your moving averages, okay? If you get above your moving averages, that's where things start to look a little bit more exciting. Although you do have this trend line to contend with, you get above that and things look really good for Tesla. Okay, which could be around the 392 level. You get above your 50-day moving average at 402, your 20-day moving average at 387, and this trend line, and that's where you could spark a breakout to new all-time highs. Again, we've had a lot of good news recently that has really been ignored by Wall Street at large, and I think ultimately that will be seen as a mistake. I do still believe Tesla will be a $900 stock by the end of this year. And, well, nothing from my perspective has changed there. So let me know what you guys think about this down below in the comment section. You guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I will see you in the next one.